plants, green water, tilapia, and profitability. Stay tuned. Hi everybody, welcome again to another episode of Fish Keeping Jamaica. Welcome to Classroom Tilapia series or Tilapia Classroom series. Okay, so the last video we shared about containers, right, from small containers to large containers, and I was a little bit all over the place because you're just starting and there are certain things that you actually need to get. In other subsequent videos, I share with you the whole idea of purchasing vats and containers, and you're being advised to check the description below of the video so as to get more ideas regarding tilapia and keeping. Alright, so let's get to the meat of the matter. Alright, so we are talking about the um getting vats, right? And we're talking about getting roughly between 15 to 25 vats at big black 2,000 gallon containers that you can get from Rhino tanks or tank wells in Jamaica, right? I don't know where you would get them from overseas, but you can also use totes. But the thing about totes are tall and they limit the amount in which you can have versus the vats. For those persons overseas wondering what's the vat, you can check the description below this video and it shares with you an examples of vats and where we get our vats in Jamaica. Alright, for us continuing. Okay, so let's say this is the space that you're going to be using. Alright, you're going to be using this space so as to keep your backyard tilapia passive income entrepreneurship exercise. You have about, I think probably about 10 can hold right here and probably 10 another side, and 5 the other side. You realize that I have trees, right? Breadfruit tree, ackee tree, all that. I always be talking to you about that. However, being it that the vats are normally shallow in comparison to the IBC toads, you're going to have a problem with jumpers. And also you're going to have a problem with green water, and you might be tempted to use plants for the smaller fish, but depending on the type of plants you have, the tilapia might actually consume the roots. Okay, so what are some of the plants that you advise not to use within your tilapia pond, whether it be small pond, vats, totes, 5 gallon jug, bucket, whatever? What are some of the plants that should never ever attempt to use in your tilapia backyard farming? Okay, for one, you're not going to use any floating plant that has roots that goes down into the well. Every floating plant has roots that goes down. So you're not going to use lettuce, floating lettuce. You're not going to use hyacinth lilies. You're not going to use duckweed, whether it be giant duckweed or the normal duckweed. You're not going to use that. Reason being, the tilapia will consume the roots, and in some instances the tilapia will actually consume the plant. For example, duckweed, they consume duckweed as food. Alright, so that is out of the window. The best plants to use within a tilapia pond for babies would be Elodia densa. I wouldn't even use this one because what happens is that after a while it starts to shed and it just looks terrible within the space, and you're going to have to change water very often. I think I'm going to be doing a video on that this plant very shortly, where I do a little comparison and share with you what I've found over the past year that I have had it. Okay, back to the tilapia story. Now that you have your 25 vats lined out within your yard, and you have them in sequential order, you have nursery, you have the 1 inch, the 2 inch, you have them going down the line, you have those that are near maturity, those are for harvesting, all of that. What you're gonna find, you're gonna have problem with green water. And this is where now, if you are in Jamaica and you have access to um, constructing a greenhouse, this is where it comes into play, right? Or you can do the cheap thing while just forgetting about the greenhouse, because greenhouse is kind of going to be expensive. So what you could do, you could go to the garden store, for example, Evergrow garden store near Southdale Plaza in Hertfordshire, right? You're gonna buy some shade cloth, and you're gonna go to the hardware and you're gonna buy some electrical piping. Okay, you're gonna take the shade cloth and you're gonna measure the circumference, which is the top area, the top space of the vat, and you're gonna cut the shade cloth in the ground. You're gonna make it probably about 1 inch or 2 inch wider than what is actually there, right? Then you're gonna use the electrical piping. You're gonna bend it so that it can fit on the top, 2 inch, 3 inch over the top. That means that you would have a little flap, right? Then now you're gonna get some nylon or some very thick thread. You can even use the one that they use and do crochet, and actually sew the shade cloth on the top of the PVC, well, on top of the electrical pipe. The electrical pipe can bend, right? So you're gonna bend it, and you're gonna use coupling to attach the two ends. And if you want, you can use the what do you call it now, PVC glue. In Jamaica we call it tangent, right? Or cement, pipe cement, right? You can use that, attach the two ends, so you have a big circle. You have the shade cloth on the top, and then you would have your 10 or your 12 or your 15 or your 25 vats lying out in the back of your yard. And all of this is actually, well, each vat has its own cover, and you will actually be able to cover the vat. That actually prevent the, just like how I cover the top of my pan with zinc, right? Although I cover it with zinc, I still have to have an opening. I see this opening still facilitate green water, right? And you don't want the green water. Well, I don't mind the green water for this size fish, right? Because they consume the planktons within the green water. When the fish reaches like this size, this is where I want it to be more clearer, so I can see what's going on, right? And so you're gonna have your vats lined up, um, covered with this new thing that you have. Or if you want, you can have a greenhouse with, you build a nice little space with some 2x4 going up probably about 10 feet up in the air, and you have the same shade cloth at the side, at the top, yeah, at both sides and at the top, and you have a part in which you can walk in. This is kind of a little bit more secure than just having the top on it, because what it does, it prevents unwanted guests from actually going in the space and actually doing things that you wouldn't want them to do. For example, mongoose for me, right? And dogs for me, and cats for me, right? And if you make that greenhouse prim and proper, you will also prevent frogs from going in, and you can actually prevent mosquitoes from going in. That gives you the opportunity now to have open space with water uncovered, um, in preparation of addition of new fish. So therefore the whole breeding of mosquito within that short period of time would like be eliminated. If you want, you can do it that way, right? So you have your 10, 15 vats that you purchase. And remember, well, further down in the series, you will learn sorry, an idea. You have an idea as to how much they cost. But right now we're talking about plants, green water, filtration system. All right. So I've spoken to you about the plants. Right, 3 plants that you don't ever add to your tilapia pond. Hyacinth water lily, floating water lettuce, and duckweed, regardless of it being giant duckweed or normal duckweed. All right, so we have moved to the preservation of the water from becoming green, and now we are talking about filtration system. The larger the fish get, is the more advanced the filtration system should be. So therefore, if you have a 2.5 inch tilapia, um, heading into like 3 inch, you would not keep them in containers like this. If you try to keep them in containers like this, limit to probably about three. And you're trying to be a business person, you're trying to have a passive income. Having three in each container, that's a lot of container, guys. So it makes sense to just get a vat or get some totes, right? And within the tote, you can keep those 2.5 inches, probably about 2 dozen, 2.5 dozen tops at 2.5 inches. Now when they reach about 4 inches, 5 inches, then now you're gonna decrease the amount that is within the space, right? You're gonna put probably 1 dozen in one and 1 dozen in the other, all right? And you're gonna have filtration system. Now if you do like what I do, having a tote, or yeah, having a tote, and this size fish can also be kept in an old fridge, but you're gonna have to minimize to probably about 3 dozen, right? Within a whole old fridge for 28 days, that would be okay. But you notice I have Elodia densa, and although I have the Elodia densa in the space, um, they are still consuming the leaves of the Elodia densa, right? So I need some means of aeration, and that is what I use, air, right? So I aerate the water by using an air pump. Now, because I'm using an air pump, I am going to have to change the water regularly. If I am using a submersible pump, I would not change the water that regularly. Probably it would stay there probably for about a month or a little longer. Now, the difference between a backyard tilapia fish farming experience and a large fish farm, I share this in several of my videos, is that a large fish farm, they have like 2 acre, 3 acre um, pond, right? And the water is not changed because the volume of water versus the amount of fish, it will take a very long time, more than 9 months, for the water to become so polluted that the fish will die, right? Paddle wheels are used to um, aerate the water at times, and the inflow and the outflow of water within that space also help aerate the water, so the fish is okay. Tilapia is one of the most sturdy fish that you can think of farming, right? We do not have catfish in Jamaica. A lot of persons say that we should have, but it's ugly, so a lot of persons are not fancy in purchasing it, right? And one of my shares in the classroom, we're going to be looking at sustainability research. You're looking at the whole idea of who you're actually going to be selling your products to, right? Coming up in one of the classroom vlog. All right, so now that you have actually established spaces, you have gotten your vats, you have gotten your containers. Oh, by the way, sometimes you might have small spaces, not necessarily big 2,000 gallon vats. You might have small spaces like this, and you do not have trees like I do. You have old fridge, old containers that you have your fish in. There's no problem with that. It's just that you have to move them when they come to certain size, right? Remember, 1 inch of fish per gallon of water. So therefore, using that estimate, you can actually tell how many fish within one space. Okay, so let's say that all these containers are lined up at the back of your yard and you have no tree and the sun is pelting on it. What you need to do, you have to have some makeshift covers to prevent the sun from directly pelting the space. And so what I would advise is to get the shade cloth same way, right? And you can actually shade cloth in combination with the mesh, right? Paste it over the containers, and you'll find that the water will remain um, clear and palatable for the fish, and you'll be able to see what's going on in the space. And to some extent, the shade cloth will prevent critters from going in, like like frogs and them's fly, dragonfly, and to lay eggs. All right, so let's go to filtration now. As I said before, the smaller the tilapia, you can use plants. As tilapia get larger, you're now gonna have to use some amount of mechanical filtration. Mechanical filtration includes submersible pump and air pump. Now, depending on how many vats you have and how you're gonna structure your system, you might choose to have an internal pump or an external pump. Now, in Jamaica, the rate in which you pay for light bill is crazy. Now, I had, and you see the plumbing here, right? I had a large bucket sand filter. It was one of these drum with just the top alone cut off, right? One of these, just the top alone cut off, right? And it was filled with sand, gravel, and sponge. It was on a table. It was right here, and it usually filter all the 18 ponds, right? And the pump was right there. Now the light bill, it was an external pump. I paid about $7,000 for that, and that was about probably about what, 2018, right? I don't think it's gone $10,000. I think it's in that region because they are cheap, and the reason why they are cheap is because not much care is placed in it to actually conserve electricity. All right, so it was there. It was grilled on with padlock and all that, and it was going on. And after the first light bill I got, I disconnected it, and I only used the valves at the bottom. And I'm going to be talking about that in another classroom share. The valves at the bottom so as to release the water. I don't use the one at the top because I cannot afford the light bill that this incur. Alright, so the internal submersible pump is the best submersible pump to use when considering having several systems in play. It burns less current, and you actually can see some amount of profitability at the end of the day. Alright, so I hope that this share was sensible. I hope that this share actually reached you. I hope that you will be able to use this share so as to create a space. Hey buddy, to create a space that is able to facilitate your passive income. Thank you very much for stopping by, guys. Have a wonderful day. Peace out. Bye bye.